So, you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a dungeon.
So you want to be a dungeon master.
So, you want to be a dungeon master.
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're going to be getting into the specifics of how to select monsters for combat encounters. When it comes to combat in D&D, there are many nuances and variables, some more important than others. What level is the party at? How much rest have they had? Is this meant to be an easy or challenging fight? Where's this fight even happening? How intelligent are the enemies, and do they have prior knowledge of what the party is capable of? We're going to attempt to peek behind the screen and show you what works for us, and hopefully you'll walk away from this episode with a bunch of tips and tricks. Let's get into it. But first... Always going to be a but first. How much does the previous or the next fight influence how you're designing this fight? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Okay.
My immediate first reaction to this is pretty heavily, mainly because, as has been stated in many previous podcasts, I have a very combat heavy table. So coming up with ways to make each fight seem different is kind of like the goal. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, you run into this place, swarm of enemies. All right, cool. Move on to the next room. Boom. Oh my gosh, another swarm of enemies. Like, you got to throw in some funny mechanics in there, or not necessarily funny, but funky, some kind of different kind of mechanics. Have a lot of my encounters, the way that I build them is a large something and then a handful of smaller somethings, so that with a table of 6, the action economy is still on my side for at least one turn. And then also a lot of the bigger, higher CR monsters have more fun mechanics to play with.
Usually.
So, but yeah, I mean, previous and next fight, as far as designing a singular fight, the main thing I'm looking at is breaking up the types of combats that I'm doing, because there's a place for big swarms of monsters coming at you, and then there's also a place for heavy high CR monster with layer actions and legendary resistances and stuff like that. There are two sides of the coin. You kind of want to mix it up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think the juxtaposition of the fights and the combat encounters is huge, because let's say you just took down a mini boss, like not the BBEG, but like one of his generals or whatever. Then like your very next fight, unless there's a really good reason for it, probably isn't going to be like the most intense, deadly fight ever, because they kind of just had one.
Right.
And vice versa, like if you're doing the fight, if you know that the next fight is the climax, then like this fight should maybe not be that climactic, or like at least play in some way to lend itself to the next one. And that's almost more story-based stuff than it is. Obviously, mechanics can tie into the story in the way that you're describing, with like having simple mechanics versus complex mechanics, or like more interesting mechanics, things that are having an aura and having spell casting, or having different resistances or lair actions, legendary actions, resistances, all those things. But I definitely always, I think it would be a mistake most of the time. I'm sure that there's like a scenario where this would make sense. I think it's a mistake to create a combat encounter. This is probably true for all encounters, in a vacuum, like it's being influenced by the plot of the story, by the character arc, sometimes in development, depending on if the encounter touches on all of those things, and like the setting, the time that the battle is happening, all the things that we went over even just in the intro, like what levels the party at, how much rest have they had, how intelligent are the enemies, all those things can influence stuff. Like, does it make sense for the bad guys to have like knowledge about the players, or the party members rather? Like, that plays into things. But I definitely take a lot into consideration when I'm planning an encounter.
Yeah.
Like, how do I make this one different?
Now,
all of those things.
I mean, our sessions are getting more and more RP heavy anyway. Like, as far as like our home game and all that. And a lot of our even actual play stuff is getting pretty RP heavy. So making the combats feel unique and important is another key thing. Uniqueness and just giving the players a stake and stuff in the fights really helps, is one of the biggest ways to figure out how you're going to plan an encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like an easy way to make each combat feel different is to really lean into who's doing the fighting. So obviously the players are going to bring their own stuff with their characters, but also as you as the DM, it's like, okay, you guys are fighting, let's say this evil scientist who, like Dr. Freeze level, is like trying to bring back their loved one, but is willing to do terrible things in order to make that happen, right? That's the basic idea of this villain I'm inventing right in this moment, or stealing from Dr. Freeze and other Dr. Frankenstein. Like there's different tropes. And so I might go into that combat. I have, like, let's say I find the cool stat block, or I homebrew it or whatever. I add a thing or two here to, maybe I borrow something from like the alchemist class list of like abilities or spells. I get that in there.
Right.
And then I will also go so far as to be like, here's a list of things that this character can say during combat, or here's their personality. And it's just like 3 bullet points so that I can RP them during combat. And I don't forget that important part of the storytelling, so that it's not just me constantly being like, okay, well, he didn't like that you did that much damage, but he is going to actually, as a reaction, run away. As opposed to me being like, as you hit him with this burning hands upcasted spell, he looks at you and he says, and I consult my list and I'm like, he says, now I have to think of something because I don't actually have a list. He says, well, how dare you hurt me with fire? I was born in the kiln. And then his homunculus, made of metal, starts to melt in on itself as it reforms like T2 fucking Terminator. And he turns into a weapon that he holds and he stabs you. I don't know. But much more interesting to have at least a little bit of prep for making the villains feel unique, because if the villains feel unique, then the combat will then feel unique. And sometimes it's easier to, a separate but similar tip is like, for each combat, try to change one variable, like change one, like add one little layer of nuance so that you're not overwhelming yourself, assuming that you're like newer to this, right? So just be like, in this fight, I'm going to play with the number of combatants. This next fight, I'm going to just do a straight up legendary monster on its own. It has the lair actions, the legendary actions, but no minions. And just guess and check. You'll figure things out as you go along, but you're never really going to... You can listen to all the videos and tips and tricks from other people, including us, but until you do it, you're never going to really feel what it's like to be like, okay, this is why action economy is so important, or whatever, right? Like, you kind of have to sometimes make those mistakes in order to really feel out why certain things help mechanically, which will also lead to better thematic fights. But we are doing a bunch of encounter building in this episode. Do you want to go over what the plan is for this?
Yeah, so we got a message on our Discord about wanting us to go through and actually discuss our thought processes on actual monsters being chosen for actual fights. So what we did is we have basically each made 3 encounters. One for a low level encounter, generally party level between 3 and 6. Then we have a mid-level encounter. This is like 7 to 14. And then a high-level encounter for 15 to 20. So in this, we're going to be a large portion of what monsters I personally choose, and I'm pretty sure Justin does too, is the setting. So we'll be going into a bit of setting as far as what's going on surrounding the encounter, and then also, kind of discussing any kind of weird mechanics in the actual monsters that we chose and why we chose them for this specific encounter.
Yeah.
So I think that's the setup.
It's mechanically So it's like, well, if we have this many party, and for party, we're kind of a loose, like 4 party members is what I'm thinking, at least when I was designing mine, just because I was like, if you have 6, that does change things. And the levels are a little loosey-goosey. So like, if you read our first encounter for levels 3 and 6, for the level 3, if it's only level 3, it might be a little, really challenging. If it's level 6, it might be a little bit easier, but that makes sense. The other thing is, like Taylor was saying, we got this submission from one of our incredible Patreon members in our little private server there on our Discord server. There's the Patreon gang. If you want to ask us some questions, you get priority. Maybe we'll make an episode about your question. I think this question, if memory serves, comes from Linguini. I have to double check. But the important thing is this. Gang, there's all kinds of crazy stuff on that Patreon, man. There's stuff for free members where all you have to do is just follow us there. There's stuff for the different tiers, whether it's the bonus action, our extra podcast every other Friday. And then we also have Action Surge, where you can listen to the actual play cast and table, talk about the show that we just recorded. And that's really interesting and fun, little behind the scenes session talk. And there's just so much cool stuff there, and it's only going to keep getting better. So check it out. Link in the description. Okay, let's get into it. Do you want to roll to see who goes first, or do you want to...
Absolutely.
This is a really rare opportunity where I don't have a dice by me.
What?
Dude, my friend from out of town came in, and I was like, we had taken part in an activity. And so as a result of that, our imaginations were going wild. And so we were like, dude, I showed him some dice that I had, and he was like, I want to roll dice. And I was like, all right, sick. And I knew D&D was going to be a little complicated. I was going to do Eat the Reich, and then I was reading like all the different little abilities, and I was like, that's actually a little too complicated to just immediately jump into with no TTRPG experience. And so I was like, I had Kids on Bikes, and we literally did a one-on-one Kids on Bikes game. Right then and there. It was sick, dude. It was really fun. Okay. That went right off the table. A 10. Right average.
I got a 2.
A 2. Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will accept my 10 then. 4 low-level encounter, give or take levels 3 through 6. I started with the setting for this particular one. I was truly inspired. There was a specific monster that I kind of wanted to use for this CR level, and it fits perfectly in the setting that I was already kind of wanting to gear towards. Because, like, obviously, we're not basing this off of, like, actual campaigns that exist or actual games. It's just kind of like, hey, for this low-level setting, what if it was a swamp? And so then that's the impetus, and it starts to build from there. And then I had this monster called, and I'm going to fuck this name up because it's one of the weirdest names, Catobleplas? I have no fucking idea.
Yeah,
it's a crazy looking animal.
You're getting as close as I could on that. That's a weird one.
So this weirdo, large monstrosity, AC of 14, hit points 84, but it's got like a really high constitution, a really high strength, especially for this level. It's a CR 5. It's really good at smelling, so it has advantage on perception checks that rely on smell, that keen smell, and it has a stench. And this is why I wanted to use this monster. Any creature, and I mean any creature, other than the Catobleplas, that starts its turn within 10 feet of it must succeed on a DC 16 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned until the start of the creature's next turn. On a successful saving throw, you are immune to the stench for 1 hour.
Okay.
So only for an hour. But so this creature, you smell it before you see it sometimes, depending. So then bouncing back to my swamp idea, I got the idea of that scene from The Labyrinth, the bog of eternal stench, where it's like, if you fall in the water, like you're going to stink forever. Because one of the things we're trying to do here is also, in addition to basing it off of setting and kind of coming up with some loose story mechanic ideas of like why the party are fighting these monsters, like why is this fight even happening? As opposed to just like, well, I did a CR5 and 3 CR 1/4, and that's what would make sense for this level mechanically. And it's like, there's no personality in that. There's no story. That's just numbers. And so I'm doing the Bog of Eternal Stench, this idea that it's just a stinky swamp. It's all this gases and acid and just stench. And who better than the Catobleplos to be the shepherd of that stench, kind of like this walking epicenter of just stink. And I was like, that's hilarious. And what if so normal swamp stuff, so there's like environmental hazards that I would have planned out, like uneven ground. You could possibly get stuck in a sinkhole or even a deep puddle. If you do get water like wet, like really, really wet, not just like your boots, then this awful stench like clings to your body and your clothing for days, which I think would be a really funny thing that wouldn't necessarily do a lot in this combat mechanically, right? But then imagine the party having to go into town and they're trying to find an inn, and every time they're like, oh, like the NPCs are just like, oh, get out of here. No way are you staying here. Like, what? And they have to like find somebody willing to bathe them. Like, it's just, I think that's really funny and interesting. Now, I put another point in here for additional mechanics because they will also come across as the party encounters this Catobleplos. And the Catobleplos is kind of minding its own business, but will be like extremely territorial and like lash out almost unexpectedly. Like this creature, if you look at like artwork for it, it has like hooves. It has a long body. It's on 4 legs. It has a strange looking face with tusks that come out of it, but like a long neck. And then it has this long tail with like that dinosaur like rock at the end of it. Like a studded rock at the end of its tail, and it has this like gnarly looking reddish fur. Like it almost looks like the creature on except they put it on 4 legs. The creature from the labyrinth that they meet near the Bog of Eternal Stench, that big gigantic guy who can control boulders. I don't know when the last time you saw Labyrinth was, but
centuries ago.
I should mention the Catobleplos, in addition to its stench ability, has a tail attack that can do 5d6 plus 4 damage.
Jesus.
It's a plus 7 to hit with a 10-foot reach. And, hey, you got to make a DC 16 con save or be stunned until the start of the Catobleplos. Only 1 attack. So I wouldn't feel as bad because it's like you're only stunning 1 person at a time at least. Thank gosh. But then it also has this other ability, Taylor, that recharges on a 5 or 6 called Death Ray.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. DC 16 con save or take 8d8 necrotic damage.
God.
And if you fail by 5 or more, you instead just take max, so 64. And if you're reduced to 0 in this way, according to the rules, you die.
Damn.
Now that's pretty gnarly. That's pretty intense for a low-level party. But by itself, with the 84 hit points, very low AC, it's very possible for the party to team up on this thing and get to it and take it out, no problem. Or to run away from it. You know, you don't even need to necessarily fight it. It's got 30-foot speed.
With
you can
that
get
death
out of
ray
here.
Really put the fear of God into him.
1,000,000%. But here, because it gets better, we also have a bunch of bullywug warriors. Frog people with spears and rapiers, actually, my mistake. I was using the 2024 version of Bullywug Warriors, and they can breathe air and water. They have an insectile rapier, which is crazy. I guess it's just like a mosquito head. I don't know. Does 1d8 plus 1d4 poison. They can leap as a bonus action. They can speak Bullywug in common. I would, for the sake of this, I think I would take away their ability to speak common. Just for the sake of this combat encounter specifically. They have a 30-foot speed and a 30-foot swim speed. AC 15. Only 11 hit points. But there would be like 3 or 4 of them. And the encounter idea is like the Bullywug Warriors, and it can go in a couple directions. They are either A, hunting the Catobleplos. They are B, protecting the Catobleplos. C, maybe they even like worship the Catobleplos. Or something like that, like the giver of stench, like they're all about the smell. And they're like, we love it. You can't hurt this guy. He's like the producer of the stink. Like, we need him. And so that creates the conflict with the party members. Because you could also have it turn out that like the catapultlas is only lashing out because it has like a thorn in its hoof or something like that, where it's like,
right.
So it's going to require these like almost, it's a monstrosity, so it's not a beast, but you could make the case of like animal handling checks kind of thing. I put in here that if somebody has tongues or comprehend languages, then maybe you could even discuss things with the bullywugs. You could learn what they're saying and why they're doing what they're doing, because it will be a like quick to aggression kind of mindset from the bullywugs of like, hey, you guys are hurting this like sacred beast, like we're gonna fuck you up. And so then it creates this whole dynamic, and that's my idea for a low level swamp based stink based combat.
Hilarious.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
So my low level encounter shares a lot of similarities with yours, even though we wrote them independently. So I'm gonna be for my scenario, it's going to happen in a forest setting. I basically just kind of went through on the encounter builder on D&D Beyond and just clicked environments that I wanted to do, and then picked monsters that fit in that environment. I found a bunch of really fun spiders, so I'm imagining you stumble into the stereotypical spider's den in the middle of the forest somewhere. Spider webs all over the ground that can mess with your ability to walk. I'm pretty sure there might be actual mechanics on webs, but I mean, for the most part, difficult terrain and stuff like that. There's a possibility of getting stuck in place if that, you're rolling not great. The monsters that I picked, like I said, spiders kind of were fun, and I was wondering how to make a spider encounter not just run up, smack spider with sword. So I went with the phase spider, which is a really fun one because it has the ethereal jaunt, which as a bonus action, it can shift between the material plane and the ethereal plane.
Yeah.
So it can phase out, go do something, phase back in. It does have web walker, so the webbing stuff doesn't bother it at all as far as moving around. Just a fun monster. Bite attack's only got a +4 to hit. It's not super beefy. 13 AC, 32 hit points, but for a low level encounter, it's kind of exactly right down the middle as far as CR ratings and stuff like that. Especially when we add in the other stuff that's going to also be in here. But one of the most fun things is after it does its bite attack, if it hits, it's only a D10 +2 piercing damage, but the target must make a DC 11 con save. It'll take 4d8 poison damage on a failed save, and if the poison damage reduces the target to 0 hit points, the target is stable but poisoned for 1 hour, even after regaining hit points, and is paralyzed while poisoned this way.
Whoa.
So if it gets you down to 0, that player is officially out.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
So pretty intense, but like I said, not crazy armor class, not a crazy amount of hit points. Definitely easy to get rid of this thing before we have trouble on our hands, but the danger is still there. So on top of that, I'm adding in a Thrycreen warrior and 4 swarms of insects. These insects can kind of be flavored how you want. I was going to just be like little scritchy spiders coming around doing stuff. And I added in the Thrycreen as kind of a sub-mechanic, and like story-wise, I was like, oh, well, maybe the Thrycreen and the spiders have some kind of a connection. Like maybe he's like comes in riding on the spider or something like that. Some kind of cool thing. And then I also added in kind of like I was thinking about it. Now, Thrycreen don't speak normal common.
Right.
So you would need tongues or comprehend languages to be able to communicate with it, but also potentially you could talk your way out of this and get the Thrycreen to get all the stuff to stand down potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really like the thought of a big spooky spider's den and what would I put inside of a big spooky spider's den.
Spiders.
Spiders, lots of spiders.
Hell yeah, dude. The 3 green is a nice touch.
Yeah.
Because it adds a level of like, ironically, because it's still like very much it's a bug person. So it adds a little bit of like almost humanity to the situation.
Right.
As opposed to it just being a spider, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, you can't really reason with the phase spider. But a 3 green, you can reason with.
Absolutely.
Sick.
But yeah, I mean, and that's basically the low level encounter. My next one is another crate. It's going to be wild. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say on the low level stuff. I mean, really and honestly, low levels are both easy and hard to pick monsters for because all the cool monsters are higher CR, and you know, there's a bunch of like the lower you get down on the list, almost it's more monsters that you can pick from on the CR list. And so it's really, you have a really large amount of things, but it's kind of hard because a lot of them are very, very similar in their stat blocks.
Yep. Yeah, it's all just flavor for the most part,
Right.
a lot of them. But let's get into mid-level encounters, levels, character levels around 7 to 14. So for this one, I remember now that for the setting, I did one of those random wheel generator things, and I just had a bunch of things written down, and I got the Feywild, and then I was like, let me spice it up even more, and I re-rolled again on the wheel, and I got Arctic. So I would combine the two, and I was like, okay, Feywild, Arctic, what does that look like? And I landed on the idea of the Winter Court. Like, there are Winter Eladrins and stuff, so I also looked at the Winter Eladrin from, I think, most of the source material. I can't remember if it's 2024 or 2014 or both, but a Winter Eladrin, not using the PC stuff, but specifically like monster stat block, is like a CR10. And I was reading the stuff and I was like, it does not deserve to be a CR10. This is insane. This is so dumb. I did not get that at all. But so I didn't do that. But so I'm thinking of a situation where the party members have to traverse this blizzarding, strange, magical tundra in order to get to this like revered place, like this sanctuary, or like not sanctuary, it's not the right word, like sanctified, like a sacred place, just like a very important place in this like Feywild Arctic Circle. Like their version of the North Pole, kind of, right?
Right.
Like this magical, legendary place. And the reason they have to do that could be any number of reasons, depends on the campaign. It could be just getting a MacGuffin. It could be meeting a person. Maybe they have to go there to fight the thing that they're eventually going to fight. That is completely up for grabs. But the idea is that when they get to wherever they're supposed to be going, they are faced with this evil entourage. And so I went in a weird direction with this one where I kind of went a little ham. This fight would be actually really hard. I think even if you went up to the higher levels, like closer to 14, 13, even maybe 12, I don't think it would be as hard, obviously, because you just have way more hit points and higher level spells and all different kinds of crazy multi-class opportunities. But for the lower levels, like 7 and 8 and 9, this is possibly towing a TPK line. I threw in a Bjor Hag, one of my favorite hags of all time. The Bjor Hag is a CR7. She can cast Cone of Cold 3 times a day, Wall of Ice 3 times a day, hold person at will, all with a save of 14. She has an AC of 17 and 91 hit points, which makes sense just because of how she's a spellcaster, so like she doesn't have a ton of hit points. She gets a single slam attack, and she has an ability called Maddening Feast, where the hag feasts on a corpse of one enemy within 5 feet of her that died within the past minute, and everyone of the hag's choice within 60 feet has to make a DC 15 wisdom save, or they are frightened, and while they are frightened, they are incapacitated, can't understand what others are saying. They can't read. They speak only in gibberish. The DM controls the creature's movement, which is erratic, and the creature can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns. Now, obviously, you would have to set that up because unless you're killing a party member or an NPC like really quickly and then eating them, which is nuts,
right?
You would have to kind of have like maybe you went there to like save some townsfolk or something, and this is just like some rando, or like maybe you just stumbled upon this evil entourage as they were feasting. Kind of crazy, kind of gross, but that's possible if you want to use that ability. Otherwise, it's just an evil spellcaster. But my idea is that the Bjorhag is the mastermind. She is the brains behind this operation of evil frost creatures. And at her disposal is an ice troll. The ice troll has 115 hit points, AC of 16. Does have regeneration because of being a troll.
Troll things, yeah.
Yep. It is immune to cold damage, as is the Bjorhag, I believe. Yeah. So cold damage is never going to work against these guys.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that tracks.
That tracks. The ice troll also has a cold aura, which can hurt creatures that are too close to it. It makes 3 attacks on its turn, so it's doing a ton of damage potentially. The Bjorhag
that
also
aura though is not selective, right? It'll also hurt its allies with that, correct?
Unless they're immune to cold damage, because it only does cold damage.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Because
okay.
We also have a frost giant on our side. AC 15, 138 hit points, 2 great axe attacks that do 3d12 plus 6 each. Or it can just hurl a rock for 4d10 up to 60 feet. Also immune to cold damage. And then we have 2 winter wolves. So these are our sentries. These are our guards. They are the ones who are keeping an eye out. They have keen hearing and smell. So they're constantly checking for invaders, intruders, sneaky sneaks, and adventuring parties here to stop the fun. They have snow camouflage, pack tactics. There's 2 of them. They have a cold breath, a bite attack. They have 75 hit points attack? Each. Yeah. It does 4d8 in a 15-foot cone, but it's a DC 12, pretty low.
Right.
So,
okay.
And they can speak. The winter wolves can speak common, giant, and wolf. Frost giants speak giant. Ice trolls speak giant. Bjorhags don't naturally speak. Actually, nope. I'm reading it right here. They literally speak giant. So Bjorhags also speak giant. So that actually all tracks. That's crazy. I didn't intend for them all to speak giant that way, but they do. And so the Bjorhag is the mastermind. So it's one of those things of like, you want to try and get rid of her first, but she is dangerous and wielding these huge spells. And she's got 2 massive bodyguards in the ice troll and the frost giant, who will not leave her side. Like, they are staying close to her. They are her tanks. And the winter wolves can do like move more throughout. They're more frontline kind of vibes. And the thing is, the way I'm adding story and personality to the bad guys is because the Bjorhag is the mastermind. A ice troll has an intelligence of 7, so -2. A frost giant has an intelligence of 9, so -1. The Bjorhag is not like the smartest thing ever. She just has a 12, but still the mastermind nonetheless. I think the winter wolves have a 7 as well. So if the Bjorhag is taken out, then it is possible to sow discord between the troll and the giant.
Nice.
They do not like one another. There will be very subtle clues to that as the fight progresses, that these two don't like each other. Like, there'll be like little things of like, hey, like if the Bjorhag gets hit, one will say to the other like, hey, watch her left side. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But it'll all be in giant. So that'll be like another language thing. And so that's like kind of the fun
episode.
I know. Yeah. We're really playing into it. Well, it makes sense. It's like, it could be an important part of your game if you use it the right way. Because you could have them speak common, but I don't know.
But let's be honest. How many wizards have tongues prepared and then never use it?
Never using it. Yeah. So Or like you might have a Goliath in the group who can speak giant, and this will be the big
Yeah.
time that they get to use it, or a Firbolg or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously like environmental factors. There's blizzarding. It's difficult to see. You have snow. It's cold. You need to make sure that the weather you're like dressed appropriately. Otherwise, that could be exhaustion checks. There's also I thought of this idea and like it would depend on the party because there's like you would know as the DM you should know some of what your party is capable of or most of, if not all of it. And so this idea may or may not work, or it may be just too much. But
Right.
I had this idea of doing possible avalanches based on noise level.
Ooh, yeah.
And having that be a factor. And I wrote down here that it is automatically triggered by thunder damage. So anybody who casts Shatter, for example, would trigger an avalanche.
I feel like I'm under attack there. Anytime anybody uses Shatter, Taylor,
or Shield, or anything.
Shield somehow magically sets off.
Every time you activate Shield, it's like bong. Echoes through the mountains. An avalanche. Ricola. Anyway, that's my setting. Yeah. Just this idea of a magical, and I would make sure that would be the important part. This is part of the Feywild, which is why a Bjorhag is big because they are Fey. These are like her minions, but they're big minions, which is why there's not many. And it will be interesting. I liked the idea of, because I could have made this way simpler, and instead of doing an ice troll and a frost giant, I could have done two of. It would have been easier to run because of the same mechanics,
right?
But this way is a little more interesting because it's like the frost giant isn't regenerating. It's the ice troll you have to worry about regenerating. So you have to change strategy a little bit and be like, fuck, we have to use fire against this guy. Otherwise he's going to keep getting health back, or can we outpace the damage or something? So I liked doing it that way. Yeah. But yep. That's what I got for mid-level.
Awesome. So for my mid-level setting, I chose the Underdark. This is just another one where it's like, I wanted to just build an encounter that I haven't built either in a while or ever. And I've been playing a lot of, Resident Evil recently. So the idea of a spooky town really is kind of something that settled with me, of like, you're in this ruined city, and as you're walking through, you're not seeing any people, but you're hearing noises of stuff moving around in some of the buildings, or you can hear the rush of footsteps run behind you, or something along those lines as you're walking through this spooky, ooky town. And then eventually it comes to a head where you run into some actual spectral beings in the form of 3 wraiths, 3 ghosts, and 2 banshees. The main reason why I picked these, or the number of these, is mainly for the balancing aspect of everything. Because these are kind of lower CR monsters, but when you add more of them in, the action economy shifts, and it actually becomes a harder fight, obviously. And also we have a lot of fun like mechanics with these guys. The Wraith can do like a life drain attack, where it lowers the max HP of something when it hits it. It can also it has like a raise dead thing. Not really super important in this fight because it's all specters, but like if a wraith was in the middle of a battlefield with a bunch of like little guys, and the little guys kept dying, then it could raise ghosts from them, which is a fun thing. Also, I have the ghost. These guys can possess. They can have it's got a recharge of a 6, like a roll a d6 recharge, where it can basically possess some of the PCs possibly. It also has the horrifying visage, which can bestow frightened condition on stuff. And it also ages the person, which we've seen in our home game sometimes a win, sometimes a loss. Some people just really don't like you messing with the age of their characters.
Yeah. I feel like if you do run into that where a player is like, ooh, I don't want my character to now be 80 years old. Like I'm a human. That fucking sucks. Then just have it go away on a long rest or something. Like have it not be that big of a deal, but just like a funny blip in time. Yeah.
And then also I added the Banshee. This is kind of the harder hitting one of the three. That's why there's only two of them. Just for this whale attack is it's all creatures within 30 feet that can hear must make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. Not that super dangerous, but within shitty roll range. And on a failure, creature drops to 0 hit points.
Woof.
Bingo bango. on a success, it still takes 3d6 psychic damage. It also has a horrifying visage, and all the ghosty stuff. Now, all of this is just the preamble to the actual encounter, which is what I really like about this, because as you're fighting these things, more are going to keep showing up. So you can either just keep them as is for like the higher side of things, like the level 14 side of things. If I was running this as like a level 7 group, I might be chopping HPs down just to have that. I want that visual of ghosts just keep coming out of the woodworks as you're fighting them.
For sure.
So like one of the mechanics I have is that after they get like half of their number is defeated, more ghosts show up. And the reason why this is happening is they are actually in the lair, even though it's not really like a lair, but it is kind of a region of influence of a zombie beholder. Beholders are a lot of fun lore-wise because of all the funky stuff that they do with their minds. Like just being around a beholder for a long period of time, like the area that a beholder puts its claim in starts to warp and change because of how strong the mind is. So I have this vision of the town was attacked by a beholder, and the beholder managed to kill a whole big portion of the town. That's why this city is completely abandoned. But in doing that, it also got hurt really bad and succumbed to its wounds. But because its mind is so strong, it kind of stayed as a zombie. And now it calls forth the spirits or its interpretation of the spirits back. And that's what's going on. So the real fight is to find and kill the beholder, which is somewhere in this city. Yeah. So I think that that's a fun mechanic to add to things of having to run through town and fight off these little ghosties, like, no ghosties, and then have to find this beholder. Now, you have to set it up so that the players know that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
To an extent. Just because if they just get dropped into this fight and then, oh, these ghosts are never stopping, like, they're not going to know what to do. But the goal for this encounter is to find this zombie beholder and fight it. Zombie beholder, or I guess in the book it's the beholder zombie, whatever. It's a little bit nerfed version of a full beholder. AC 15, only 93 hit points, but it still has 4 of its usual 10 eye rays. It's got paralyzing ray, it's got the fear ray, the enervation ray, and then disintegration ray, obviously. Now it does not have it doesn't have the the big eye effect of beholders, the magical denial. The anti-magic cone. So it doesn't have that, which I found to be a fun mechanic in theory. In practice, my players do not like it.
Yeah. I think it is easier when you're using a VTT or have a visual representation of the cone and you just kind of metagame that. Then it is a little bit better because then the players at least have an idea of like, okay, here's the cone.
Right.
And you're not being like, oh, no, roll odds or evens to see if you're in the cone. And it's like, because once you use the cone and it's like, okay, the start of the beholder's turn, I move the cone and then we go for it. And it's like, Yeah, I agree. It is one of those things where it's like it can feel just like a little annoying.
But yeah, so that's the encounter. You got to find this hidden beholder. I'm probably I would probably tweak it to give it some kind of a blend, like a camouflage mechanic or something like that, because it's been there for so long, to kind of have stealth checks and stuff like that, rather than it just be kind of out in the open somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Just
to kind of make this encounter feel as big as I want it to, because this one does feel like I want this to be a big encounter, like we're literally fighting for our lives here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I think you could have a lot of fun with that too. When you were mentioning before, like how you have to make sure that the party finds out or learns that there is a monster, whether you figure out that it is exactly a beholder or whatever it is, but you find out that there's a monster that's causing all of this. And that should be the target of your mission. For me, the first thing that came to mind is like when the ghost creatures use their various abilities, you could flavor it, like especially if a ghost possesses one of the party members, there could be a quick sharing of memories of like the player when their body is trapped and they have that locked in syndrome a little bit, and the ghost gets to control their body. The party member is like seeing the city in all of its glory pre-ruin, and then a beholder, and then boom, fire, explosions, beam rays, oh no, and then flash to the present, and it's like, whoa, how did I see that? That could be a cool way to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that a lot. This is an encounter I'd love to actually run. This looks like a lot of fun. This one I was really proud of this one.
This is a good one. Okay. Last up, the high level encounters for characters levels 15 through 20. Okay, so for this one, I went forest. Kind of basic. I spun on the wheel again. I got forest, and I said, well, I got to change it up. Forest feels like the most, other than a dungeon, feels like the most D&D. So I was like, I got to switch it up. How am I going to add some stuff to this? Maybe I know that I'm going forest. Let me pick an animal / why did I say animal? A monster, and I'll like retrograde how the setting is different because of the monster, And so I landed on, I'm a big fan of ancient green dragons for a couple of reasons. The ancient green dragon, if you use even a sliver of the classic D&D lore that's provided in the monster manual or the textbooks or whatever, the green dragons are the ones that are most cunning and treacherous. They are fans of misdirection and trickery. And I like that. I like all of that. They do love a good forest. They love marshy woods. And I just was like, man, this is some cool shit. Let's do this.
Oh, yeah.
So we have our ancient green dragon. Now, we're talking an ancient green dragon. So, I mean, they're fucking big, right? CR 22. We're doing an AC of 21. Hit points, 385. 40-foot speed, 80-foot fly speed, and a 40-foot swim speed. We got bonuses in a ton of the saving throws. Really good. Its perception is a plus 17. Like, what the fuck? Blindside out to 60 feet. Insight of 10. Deception of plus 11, so it can lie to you if it wanted to. It's amphibious, legendary resistances, legendary actions, lair actions, if you so chose to go in that direction. Which are pretty thematic. I mean, there's grasping roots and vines that burst out. There's a wall of tangled brush bristling with thorns that pops out. There's magical fog that billows on the ground and can charm things. So all different kinds of things that could fit a forest. But let's get to the breath weapon. One of the most defining features of all the different dragons. And as a green dragon might suggest, it does poison breath. Now, poison is an ability or damage type that can be pretty easily. It's not easy. I guess for party members, it's really like dwarves are the only thing you got to worry about. Unless you have somebody in the party who has like a transmuter stone or some way to like pick a resistance on the day of. But it exhales poisonous gas in a 90-foot cone, DC 22 con save, and it's 22d6 poison damage. Half on a success. And I started thinking about that, and I thought, how interesting would it be? Because I want to add some extra elements. I want to make this different than just coming across an ancient green dragon in the middle of a forest. What if this forest is one of those forests that's like really important to the lands? Like maybe it is a forest at an intersection of magical ley lines, and that's why it's important. Maybe it's nearby a rift to another plane, and so it's a common place for travel. So it's an important like forest that is turned into a safe haven as a traveling hub or something. I don't know, but some kind of importance is placed on this forest, and so when it becomes to get polluted and corrupted, as the entire thing gets filled with smog and pollution, but there are no like major cities nearby. There's nothing that is man-made or natural to point to. Not that cities are natural, but you know what I mean. There's no like quick, easy, like, oh, well, there's a giant AI processing server plant right next to it. That's why people can't breathe. It's like, what is causing this? You know, and it's contained to the forest, so it's very strange. Like I said, there's lots of smog and stuff, so maybe the party members can go in prepared and have things to cover their faces, ventilators of some kind that are magical or mechanical, if artificers exist in your world, whatever. And this leads to low visibility, difficult breathing, and as the party members are going through, as you can imagine, if the party members are like levels 17 through 20, a single ancient green dragon, not that much of a fight.
No.
But what if this entire thing has been a setup, an ambush against the party members? What if the green dragon wanted to lure them here under the guise of some strange, mysterious pollution event that needs to be investigated by a high-ranking adventuring party, and thus set up this whole thing? And so there's this layer of this poisonous smog that fills the forest that the party has to walk through. And what if that was kind of just like, you know, an incendiary cloud? What if there were 3 to 5 lizard folk shaman, only a CR2, but they have access to a cantrip called Produce Flame? And so what if these zealots, these shaman, lizard folk, worshippers of the ancient green dragon, what if they ignite the smog, this poisonous gas, and they ignite it, and the entire forest begins to burn? And now you have to have this insane fight against an ancient green dragon and a couple of minions in the middle of a burning poisonous forest. And so the amount of other environmental factors, the disadvantage of being surprised against, you know, and all of these different things, I think lend to a really interesting combat because of how the combat kicks off. The fact that instead of the party members doing all of the preparing and planning and setting up spells and booby traps and ambushes, they are the prey. They are the hunted.
Right.
And that is the idea for this particular combat. And then once the fire kicks off, you can play with the idea of smoke inhalation and poor visibility. You can talk about the idea of time being a really important thing. The forest will burn. How much action economy are you willing to put into putting out the fires?
Right.
Instead of fighting the dragon. It's also possible that maybe the party, you could throw them a bone and maybe the party can catch the lizard folk before they ignite the poison. But that also implies that the players are not allowed to use any fire stuff. The second that they use fire, it will also ignite all of the poisonous smog. So that is my high level encounter.
That's fun. I really like that.
DM being like, what if I get to plan and prep and I know all of the things?
Right. Yeah, no, I really like that. I am a fan of ambushes. On both sides of the coin. They're fun.
Hell yeah.
All right. So for my high level encounter, I actually kind of took a bit of inspiration from World of Warcraft.
Okay.
In the raid mechanics almost. So I picked I went with a coastal cave. So this is like you're inside some kind of a large cave. And there are the creatures, the Soyouwannabeadm, however you say that, that I've always equated with either like Naga or Murlocs from World of Warcraft, where they're kind of these tribal groups that are generally either just kind of doing their own thing, like fishing villages and stuff like that, or a lot of times they're in service to a larger creature. In this case, the larger creature is going to be a dragon turtle, because I saw dragon turtle and went, yeah, that's the thing. What I imagine for this fight is we're going up against the big dragon turtle for loot, glory, what have you. It's got a MacGuffin. You tie it in however you want to do it. I also didn't put a strict number on this, but it's going to be another instance of trying to overwhelm the party also with side creatures that are low CR, but just kind of annoying, and they do annoying things. And the Soyouwannabeadm have a whole lot of different things to pull from, like different types of spell blocks. They got spellcasters, they've got melee people, little bit of both. So an assortment of them, of those Soyouwannabeadm. And I also want to add something that the priestess does not technically have, but I would give them one use of, and that's to summon water elementals into the fight, just to add more variety of things going on top of the fact that there's this dragon turtle. And on its face, that's pretty much the whole encounter. It's a pretty straightforward run in, attack the stuff. But I wanted to give the dragon turtle some fun, like legendary actions and lair actions, because you're technically coming into its home or whatever. I don't know if I would do it as a legendary or a lair. I think the more I think about it, I would do this as a lair action, where the dragon turtle can change the water level. Like I'm imagining like the whole thing starts off in like ankle deep water, or just kind of like just like wet rock almost, where it's and then have the dragon turtle raise the water level above the players' heads. So now you're having to deal with water mechanics for a turn, and then have it the next turn it goes back down. Just have it be like this rising and falling tide type of situation. Because swimming mechanics is something that don't get used a whole lot, and I think that this would be a really good setting for it.
Hell yeah.
And then also a different lair action that it could do would be to summon more Soyouwannabeadm from wherever, have them slither up out of the holes. I don't know. But yeah, slither up out of the holes. And I think with it being a super high level encounter, you can kind of throttle it and make it easier or harder depending on how many of these extra people you want to throw into the fight. You know, like it could be really easy if it's just a dragon turtle. I mean, dragon turtle is a beefy beef boy, but let's see, 341 hit points and an AC of 20. Whoa. Beef boy. But mechanically, not a whole lot to it. And also, you know, it doesn't have great, like, mental stats. So a bunch of that stuff will work on it. Its main stuff is strength and constitution. So if you're coming at it with anything other than that, it's gonna have a hard time. So adding more of these Soyouwannabeadm into the fight, there are the CR ranges range from like 1/8 to like 5 or 6, I think. As far as what CR range you can pull from for them. On top of the water elementals and stuff like that, you could definitely just make this I feel like a bigger fight by adding more stuff. And even you can just add lower level Soyouwannabeadm instead of the higher level stuff. And then you can throw more shit. I'm imagining like a war, like almost a war between the Soyouwannabeadm and the dragon turtle versus the party. another big fight.
Dang.
But
Dragon
and
turtles
every
are
one of them
sick.
has, and they all have swim speeds. I think, all the Soyouwannabeadm have swim speeds, so the rising water level is not going to have anything. It's not going to affect them at all. But your party's going to have to come up with a way to deal with it.
Is it going to rise all the way to the top to where they're underwater, like truly underwater, where it's like
It's gonna. I would have it raise at least above their heads, but I mean, maybe depending on how big you describe this cave. I mean, 10 or 20 feet deep, and then have them be in the water.
Yeah.
Damn,
that'd be crazy.
Definitely, I want to have them have to use swim speed or some kind of swimming thing.
Yeah. I also, dude, that also makes me think you could make an entire fucking one shot around this, because you could add in the idea of maybe this changes your thing a little bit. So this is like not to take away from it, or this is just a kind of separate but similar. It reminds me of that level in Banjo-Kazooie, where depending on the water level, it would like change, because there would be boxes floating in the water that you could climb onto and jump onto things, but you would have to raise and lower the water level to hit certain ledges, because Banjo-Kazooie is like a platformer in addition to the other aspects of the game. But like you could do like a whole thing like that, where it's like you need to manipulate the level of the water, and maybe there's a time when you don't know what's causing that. Like there's just like a lever somewhere, and you're pulling and pushing it to change the levels, and you're like, where's this water even coming from? And then you find out that it's like from the this dragon turtle, and it's like, oh fuck, we pissed it off by forcing it to get the water up and down. Oh no. But yeah, that shit's crazy. That'd be dope.
But yeah,
dragon turtles are awesome.
That's my encounter.
The other thing too that the dragon turtle makes me think of, because they have a steam breath, don't they? You mentioned, I think. Yeah. So, I mean, is it possible that they could heat the water up too, and like make it painful to be in? I mean, that's a lot of water, but
it's a lot of water. I mean, it's 15d6 for the steam breath as far as damage. And then it recharges on a 5 or 6. I don't know what the conversion rate of calories to D6 is.
That's true. That is true. Interesting. The reason I ask is because it's interesting thinking about the idea of the hot water. I don't know if you've ever done this little experiment at your home, but most humans get this right, and it's crazy. They've done testing to see if you close your eyes and somebody pours hot water into a cup versus cold water into a cup, that you can tell the difference. Like even just by sound, just by hearing, you can hear the difference of temperature when you pour water into a cup. And that fact is brought to you by Big Tap. Thank you so much, Big Tap, for this episode sponsorship. Really appreciate it.
Come on now. That's all we can get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Soyouwannabeadm, or you can ask us a question at soyouwannabeadm@gmail.com. If you liked the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars in a review wherever you found us, and check out the Patreon, the Twitch, and our merch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
See you.
And now, I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Numuffins, may Palor's light shine upon you. Marsavies, have you watered your flesh prison lately? And then there's Elijah, Molly, Tappy, and Linguini. Gang, we appreciate and love you. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Wanna Be a DM.